The airport was a blur of motion. People rushing through security, the loud hum of announcements, the clinking of luggage being rolled across the terminal floor. It was an ordinary day for most, but for one man, the day would change in a way he could never have predicted. Barron Trump, son of the former president, was making his way through the airport, looking every bit the image of success. Dressed in a sharp, dark suit, his walk was purposeful, his head held high. He was a young man who had grown up surrounded by privilege, the kind that came with his family's name. Today he was traveling alone, heading to a private jet for a quick trip. As he walked through the terminal, something caught his eye. At first, he didn't notice much about the man standing near the boarding gate. Just another traveler like any other. But then Barron did a double take. The man was old, in his 60s, with a weathered face that seemed to carry years of untold stories. He wore a military jacket that had seen better days, a faded cap perched on his head with the insignia of the U.S. Army. The veteran's posture was slightly slouched, and though his eyes were sharp, they revealed an unmistakable sadness. Barron slowed his pace, observing the man more closely. There was something in the way the veteran stood, disconnected, uncertain, that seemed out of place. The airport around them buzzed with activity, but the man seemed to exist in a different world, as though the noise and rush of the present didn't quite reach him. As Barron approached, their eyes met. The veteran gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod, a gesture that seemed more like a greeting than a formal salute. Barron stopped in front of him. "Are you okay, sir?" Barron asked, his voice warm but with a genuine curiosity. The veteran blinked, surprised at the young man's approach. "Yeah," he muttered, but there was something in his voice that didn't quite match his words. He didn't seem all right. Barron studied him for a moment. The man was still standing, looking at the gate, as though he didn't belong. His face, weathered and tired, carried an exhaustion that wasn't just physical but emotional. Barron could tell this man had seen things, done things that no one should ever have to experience. "I've got a first-class ticket," the veteran said, almost as if speaking to himself. "But I don't think I'm meant to sit there. I don't belong up there with people like that." Barron's heart sank. He could feel the weight of those words, words that carried a lifetime of struggle, of invisible battles fought far from the public eye. The veteran's life, it seemed, had been one of sacrifice, and now, in the twilight years of his service, he found himself feeling out of place, even in an airport. Without thinking twice, Barron made a decision. He turned on his heel and walked towards the first-class desk. The flight attendants behind the counter looked up in surprise as he approached. "I'd like to give up my first-class seat," Barron said, his tone firm and resolute. "Please, let the veteran have it." The attendants stared at him for a moment, unsure of how to respond. "But, sir, you have a premium seat," one of them said. It's part of your booking." Barron shook his head. "That's not important right now. That man has served this country. He deserves this more than I do." The attendants exchanged glances before they began to process the change. Barron's decision wasn't just a polite gesture. It was a statement. It was a reminder that not all heroes wear medals, and not all acts of valor are recognized in the spotlight. Minutes later, Barron returned to the veteran, who was still standing near the gate. The old man's face seemed to brighten when Barron walked over. "Sir, I've arranged for you to take my seat," Barron said softly. "I want you to have it. You've earned far more than any luxury or comfort I could have." The veteran looked stunned, as if he had to process the words a second time. His hands trembled slightly, and his eyes welled up. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "You don't even know me." Barron smiled, his voice steady but filled with compassion. "I don't need to. Your service speaks louder than any words I could say." The veteran nodded slowly, and the gratitude in his eyes was so powerful it nearly overwhelmed Barron. Slowly, he made his way to the first-class cabin, still shaking his head in disbelief. Barron stood at the gate, watching the man walk towards the seat he had given up. There was something deeply satisfying in the quiet, simple act of kindness that spoke volumes in a world often obsessed with status and wealth. As the flight took off, the cabin filled with an air of quiet anticipation. It wasn't until the captain's voice crackled over the intercom that the real surprise unfolded. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain began, his voice calm but filled with a sense of pride. "We are fortunate to have with us today a U.S. Army veteran. This man has served this country with honor, and we are grateful for his sacrifice. And we are equally fortunate to witness an extraordinary act of kindness. Barron Trump has given up his first-class seat for this veteran. His gesture is a reminder that true heroism doesn't always wear a uniform, and it doesn't always require applause." The entire cabin fell silent for a moment. Then, a slow clap began from the back of the plane, growing louder with each passing second. Soon, the entire cabin was applauding Barron's selfless act. Barron sat in his new seat, feeling a warmth fill his chest, not from the luxury of his surroundings, but from the deep, genuine recognition of his action. But the surprises didn't end there. As the applause died down, the captain continued, "In recognition of Barron's kindness, we have decided to give him a seat that symbolizes the heart of our country. One that honors both his compassion and his understanding of the true meaning of service." Barron's eyes widened. He hadn't expected this. The flight attendants guided him to another seat, still first class but different. The seat was draped with an American flag, a small token of appreciation for his act. Barron sat back, reflecting on what had just happened. For him, it wasn't about the seat or the applause. It was about doing what was right in a world where small acts of kindness could make all the difference. As the plane neared its destination, the veteran stood up to leave. He walked towards Barron, who stood to shake his hand. "Thank you," the veteran said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll never forget this. You've reminded me what it means to be seen, to be valued." Barron smiled, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for your service, sir. It's the least I could do." As the veteran exited the plane, Barron sat back down, lost in thought. He realized that sometimes the most important moments in life come when you least expect them, when you make the choice to be kind, to honor those who came before you, and to give someone a chance to feel what they've so often given others: respect and appreciation. The plane landed, and Barron knew one thing for sure. This was a moment he would carry with him for the rest of his life. If the story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content.